on Monday, if you were with me, I like to be able to get as much bang for my buck as I can. Whenever we purchase something, it's really an investment, especially in our hobbies and the things we like to do. So taking a look at the Holiday Mini catalog, I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I did a couple of Facebook Lives where I used the Delivering Cheer stamp set, but I used it for birthday or celebration, not Christmas. So I like to look at things and see, are there other ways I can use them so that I'm getting more versatility in my products, finding more ways to use them, and getting more bang for the buck. All right. And so today I'm going to show you another bundle from the catalog, the Gingerbread and Peppermint. And we're actually going to be using just a couple of the dies from the set. We're going to be using these Christmas bells, but we're not going to be making Christmas cards. I bet you can guess the kind of cards we're going to be making. And I'm also going to use a couple of the sentiments from the Forever Blossoms stamp set. So I'm combining some older product with some newer product. I'm combining some holiday product with everyday product, and we're going to come up with some great cards together. So I'm going to flip my camera around now to my workspace. And while I'm doing that, I would ask that you please share this live so other people can join in the fun and the creative process and get some good project ideas. Oh, I see lots of you on here. Thanks so much. Welcome to Stampin' Peace with Mary Knabe. I'm so happy that you're here. So I'm going to start first by showing you a couple of wedding cards I made. They could also be anniversary cards. They could be engagement cards, maybe even used for bridal shower cards as well. And these are the two I've made. My oldest daughter is getting married next June, so we're kind of in wedding mode over here. And I chose the, what is this called? Soft succulent? Yes, soft succulent green. And that kind of coordinates with the green she's having the bridesmaids wear, and we'll be doing some decorating with. But you can see I've made the very same card, one in basic white and one in very vanilla. They're both very simple, but very elegant. And they both have really nice textures and layers and dimension to them. So we're going to recreate some card very similar to this, but we're going to put a twist on these, and I'm going to give you some different tips and things as we go along. We're also going to be doing some heat embossing. So I'm starting with a basic white thick cardstock, which measures 5.5 by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4. And then I have a piece of basic white that I embossed with the Tasteful Textile embossing folder. And I'm just going to add that as a front layer. Now I did change up my sizing a little bit on the layers on the inside of the card, and I'll tell you why. I cut this one first, and this one is cut 4 inches by 2 3/4. And the reason I chose that measurement is, you know that the foil sheets come in 12 by 12. I cut this in 4-inch strips and then cut my 2 3/4 because that's the most economical and least wasteful cutting. If I had gone 4 1/4 by 3 inches like the white layer on my original card, I would be wasting a lot more of the foil, not being able to get as many pieces out of it. So sometimes I do look at that and change up the sizes a little bit, just so that I don't have as much waste, especially in my specialty papers, okay? So this again is 4 inches by 2 3/4. This one is 3 3/4 by 2 1/2 inches. So I have my layers. Now before I adhere this, I am going to die cut 2 bells from the inside of this, because I only need the outer edge of this showing. So this is another way to maximize those specialty papers you have and eliminate some of the waste. I was doing another project earlier, and I've got all these little, can you see them? All those little soft succulent pieces from inside my leaves. Clean those out. So I'm going to be cutting 2 of these, and I think I'll be able to get 2 out of these just fine and still leaving that outer edge in place. There's one. It's got some ridges and stuff. I could have put something over it too, like a piece of paper, just to kind of eliminate some of that scarring that can happen on the foil sheets. But I didn't, because most of this is going to be covered up and I don't think it's going to be showing anyways. So I'll be using these 2 solid pieces, and I can now put my, it's right in front of me, looking for my adhesive, and there it is right in front of me. So now I can go ahead, oops, no, I don't want to do that. I lied. We're gonna stamp on there first. Now on this one, here's a good tip too. With this die, it's small, it has very tiny, intricate parts. To make it easier to adhere to your card or your scrapbook page, whatever it is you're using, I suggest you use some of our adhesive sheets. So what I've done is just cut a piece of the silver foil and then a piece of the adhesive sheet the same size. This always happens when I'm live. I can't get the backing off. And only when I'm live, it seems like. But we will get it. I will play with it and we will get it. If you just get it started, it comes up real. There we go. And pull off that backing. And then what I like to do is just set this down in place. It's very sticky. And I just start at one end and I just lay it on top. And I got most of it on there pretty good. If you've got a little bit laying over, it's not really a big deal, but you might want to cut away some of that sticky part just so it's not sticking to the cutting blades of your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So now I'm going to use this to cut out the detailed parts of the bell. Make sure you can still see what I'm doing here. Again, I just cut it large enough that I could die cut 2 of the bells. Now, when I have images like this that are very delicate, have lots of small pieces and lots of small cuts, I do like to roll it back and then forth, so it goes through twice. And then pull this over. I'm using that accessory for my Take Your Pick tool, And this helps get out some of those negative pieces. And if I didn't get them all, I can use the piercing end also on the Take Your Pick tool. And then these come off really easily. I think it's just that brushing them kind of gives them a head start. And then you're just going to simply center this on the solid bell. And look how beautiful that is with all the detail. So now I'm going to, it's always helpful to get these little pieces out of your die. It just allows the die to cut better. So take a moment to do that if you have some of those tiny pieces actually stuck in the die. So now I'm going to do the same thing a second time. Remember, there's lots of little cuts to make, so go through twice. When you are using the brush, start with the die still attached to the die cut, and that helps take out some of those negative pieces. You can see I got almost all of them out that time. And I'm just going to poke that last one, and then one of these curled up, and I'll just pull that off to expose the adhesive. And put that down. Now, I want to do some heat embossing on this piece of cardstock. So you can see how my card is going to come together with the layers, and then I'll have the bells over here. But I decided I'm going to make this card very fancy by heat embossing the sentiment, always and forever. So I'm going to use my embossing buddy. If you don't have an embossing buddy, we don't sell it anymore, but I know I've seen it on Amazon. That just helps to take away some of the static on the paper so that the embossing powder doesn't stick where you don't want it to. And somebody recently told me if you don't have an embossing buddy, you can use a dryer sheet. I have not tried that. So I'm going to stamp this with Versamark ink. And then I'll bring over my silver embossing powder. Embossing powder goes a long way. When I first started stamping and wanted to emboss Christmas cards, I think I bought 3 little containers of the same color, only to realize I really don't need all that. It really goes a very long way. And I see one little spot here where I don't want the powder. So I'm just going to use my piercing tool to remove that. That looks really good now. And I'm ready to use the heat tool on it. It'll take a few seconds for your heat tool to actually heat up. And then all of a sudden, like now, you'll see the powder melting. So instead of a dull matte finish, the letters now have that wet, glossy look to it. And it dries almost instantaneously. Oops. Okay, I messed that up. I didn't have it embossed all the way. All right, we're doing it again because I don't like that. I want you to see the finished product. And I had... See, that's the bad thing. Sometimes I'm demonstrating and I get to talking and I'm not thinking like I should be, but that's okay. I'm sure I'm not the only one that happens too. Oops, cut it a little bit too long. Should be 3 3/4 by 2 1/2. And when I add, do my blog post on this, I will have all the dimensions written out for you. So it'll be real easy. So I'm just going to repeat these steps. And I'm going to make sure that I emboss completely before I turn off my heat tool. I always like to flick the back of the paper. That gets rid of some of that excess powder that's on there. I'll hold it up closer and hopefully you can see it melting. Okay, it all looks glossy and shiny, so I think I got it all this time. So now I'm just going to put my layers together. And I'll do that first by adding my white layer to that silver frame. And remember, we cut out the solid bells from that because we only needed that outer edge to be showing. So I think that looks really nice. And I'm going to add this to my card front. I'm going to put it right in the center. I thought about popping up this layer on dimensionals, but I've chosen not to because I will be popping up the bells. And then I'll also be adding a little trim to those bells. So that could be a little too much, a little too thick. And typically we only, or most often only, put dimensionals on one layer. So one like this, as opposed to the first couple I showed you, one like this, you could use it for wedding, but it would also be pretty for a silver wedding anniversary. Let's go ahead and add, I've got 2 trims here. I've got this one for a nice bow, or I've got the mesh. So I've got these 2 in silver. I'm not sure I like the mesh with that. I think it gets a little bit lost in the other details. And then I also have the white glittered organdy ribbon. I feel like that's getting a little lost also. So I'm going to go ahead and use my first choice, which is the Simply Elegant trim. It's a combo pack of both silver and gold. And it's in the, let me think, is it in the holiday catalog? I'm thinking it's in the holiday catalog. But of course, silver and gold, I mean, yeah, it might be something you just want as a staple in your craft room. It can be used all year round, not necessarily just for holidays. Trim those ends a little bit. And then I'll use a single glue dot to press the bow in place right where I want it. I think I'll trim the ends just a little bit more. All right, what do you think? Thoughts? Lynn says she would have used the white ribbon. See, we all have different preferences and different thoughts on it. Okay. Now, I will show you that I have a coordinating stamp. So the one on side says always and forever, and inside I have wishing you a long life together filled with love and promise. Now, if you want to add, or if I would want to add this to the inside, I could do the same thing, do the heat embossing, or I could use smoky slate. So if you're looking for a gray or something that's not metallic but has sort of a silver look to it, I would choose the smoky slate. Let's see, Nancy, I see your name there. Which would be your preference? Should I do the silver embossing, or would you like to see what it looks like if I use the smoky slate for the inside of the card? Nancy says, do the embossing. I was hoping you would say that, Nancy. It's not very often that I emboss on the inside of the cards. No, I'm glad you said that, Nancy. It's not very often that I emboss on the inside of the cards. So when I gave you the choice, I thought, oh, I hope that's what she picks. All right, so again, I'm going to stamp with my Versamark ink. I'm trying to get it right in center without you having to look at all my gray hairs on the top of my head. So it could have been a little straighter. Okay, good idea to check to make sure it's all glossy. I didn't do that on the first one, did I? Lynn's asking, what do I use to clean the Versamark ink off of my stamps? Very good question, because it's not enough to just use your Simply Chamois. So what I do is I just take them to the bathroom sink or the kitchen sink, and I use some of the foam soap, hand soap, and I rub it over that with cool water, and then I rinse it off, and I just make sure that it's not tacky. Now, if you let it dry on there, it will be harder to get off. You know, you want to do it probably the same day. You don't have to rush. I'm not going to rush to do it immediately, but you don't want to let it sit there for days. It doesn't really damage the stamp. It's just that it's not going to give you as nice an impression if you haven't cleaned that off. So very good question. Just use a mild soap. I use Bath and Body Works hand soap. I like the foam soap, and so that's what I use when I'm cleaning the Versamark ink off. Dawn dish liquid, anything like that, just not anything harsh. Okay, so I think that looks really pretty. Really pretty. All right, let's do one more. If we're doing one for silver anniversary, we may as well do one for the golden anniversary. Okay, I don't even know what this is. Look at that. It's not even the right size. And the funny thing is, I have no idea. It's like I must have put scrap paper in there for whatever reason, because I always have my white and my vanilla card fronts pre-cut and scored. I keep a stack of them in a drawer behind me. Sometimes I do that with crumb cake, colors that I'm using quite often. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stick my small piece of gold foil to the same size piece of the adhesive sheet. And again, this is just to make it easier for me while I'm, easier for me to adhere. Where did I put my, because think about, you know, these little pieces, how hard that is to put some glue. We have fine tip glue. It works fine, it works well. I personally just have an easier time using the adhesive sheets. And I'm also going to do the same thing and die cut my solid bells from my gold layer before I layer them, because then I have less waste. And I have, I don't know why that's there. I have a piece of scrap paper. It's actually cardstock, but it's okay. I'm actually going to lay this on the top of the foil, and doing something like this helps eliminate those scars or scratches that you might get on your impressions. You can see this is much cleaner than the first one I did, which I've pretty much been able to hide, but you can see it along the edges. To me, it never really bothers me because it just gives it a different look. But if you're real particular, or if you just want the solid bells without the detailed part on top, go ahead and put a piece of typing paper or something like that over the foil and the die before you put the top cutting plate on. All right, just a little tip. I was going to say tip for your Tuesday, but it's actually Wednesday. Okay, so I have that. I'll be embossing that very vanilla layer, and I'm just going to now go ahead, while I have my Stampin' Cut emboss machine out and handy, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the detailed bells. Remember, because there's so many small intricate parts and it needs to make lots of little cuts, it's also a good idea just to flip it over and look to see that you have clean cuts there, which I do. And I'll bring my die brush and sponge back in. When you buy the accessory for the Take Your Pick tool, you also get the sponge that you work on. Okay, that got most of it. And then I'm just going to see if I can find a little edge to pick up that adhesive backing. There we go. And I'll lay that on my solid gold bell. Just makes the die cut better. Yes, Lynn, something as simple as, and a lot of people want to actually pull the die off and then roll it, and you risk the chance of damaging your die cut that way as well. But it just works better when you leave it leave the die in place, and it'll fall away just like that. And then you know you're ready to pick up and that most of the pieces will be out then. I want to remove that backing. Can you see now why I love the adhesive sheets so much? They're kind of life-changing for a crafter. Who would have thought, you know? There, I want to make sure that was laying smooth. All right, and now I'm ready to do my heat embossing and then get my card put together. So once again, I'm using my Versamark ink, and I'm going to, oh, here it is, right next to me. I'm going to use my embossing buddy, try to get rid of all the static I can. And I'm stamping first with Versamark ink. And then I'm going to put some gold embossing powder on. That looks good. And I'm ready to melt the powder. So I'm going to add this to that gold layer. It's always a good feeling when you can do something like that, because we know those specialty papers, those gold foils and other specialties, they're more expensive. So if we can get the most out of those papers, we always feel better. We have to save money where we can so that we can buy more stamps, right? Joyce, no, we no longer sell the embossing buddy. We don't have one in our catalog. We haven't for several years. I wish we would sell it again, but you can buy it on Amazon. Just look up embossing buddy on Amazon and you'll be able to find it there. If Joyce, if your sister is interested in embossing like this, the heat embossing, I don't know if you've taught her that or not. Heat tool is always a great gift. I don't know if she has a Stamparatus. Trying to think what else would make a great gift for a paper crafter. Definitely good scissors, snips, a variety of adhesives, which I'm guessing she already has. Can anybody else think of something that is good for a fairly new crafter to have that would add to her crafting experience? Oh, how about some coloring tools, some Stampin' blends, the watercolor pencils, our new soft pastels. Those might be some things that she would enjoy having. All right, I'm just gonna, oh, should we emboss the inside too? A bone folder, yes. Bone folder is something we don't think we need, but when you get used to using it, it feels like you have to have it. You have to use the bone folder on all of your cards and your 3D projects and such. All right, let's go ahead and emboss the inside of our card as well. Like I said, I don't usually emboss on the inside, but I do like it. And sometimes it takes a little getting used to using the Versamark because it is a clear ink and it's hard to see. So sometimes you might want to practice for a little bit. Oh, adhesives, yes. You know what they say, it's all fun and games until the adhesive runs out. And a variety of adhesives, like the mini dimensionals and the regular dimensionals, the glue dots. Oh, I love those. And I tend to be pretty frugal, so for the longest time, I did not buy glue dots. I thought, what's the big deal? You know, put a drop of glue there or something. And now I'm hooked. For years now, I'm hooked. And I especially like them for adhering bows. If you notice when I'm heat embossing, I don't move the heat tool around a whole lot, but as soon as I see it starting to melt in an area, I just move it over slightly. Okay. Now, if you go in and you're doing this with your heat tool, you're going to have a very difficult time getting that powder to melt. So just kind of hold it in place, and then as you see it melting, then start moving it along. All right. So that's the inside of that, and let's go ahead and finish it off with a bow as well. When I said we should make a card for a golden anniversary, I don't know why this popped into my head because it's been so many years ago, probably in the 70s. But I remember being a little girl. My mom came from a very large farming family. She was the 8th of 10 children. In my generation, I think there's it's either 52 or 55 cousins, but there was a great big party, a mass, and then a party luncheon afterwards celebrating my grandparents' 50th anniversary. And to this day, I remember that so well. All right, so there's our golden wedding anniversary card. We have a silver wedding anniversary card, and these don't necessarily have to be silver and gold anniversaries. They certainly could be for just weddings or anniversaries in general. And then I also made these two. And instead of using the metallic embossing, I used the soft succulent color, which is apparently a very popular color for weddings nowadays. I don't know, do you guys have a favorite? I know which is my favorite, just looking at these. I think this would be my favorite, just because I think of my daughter Andrea and John getting married next year, and the dresses are a little bit darker green than that, but there will be greens, eucalyptus in the invitations and such. But I think, oh, that would be a perfect wedding card for them, or a bridal shower card, something like that. Pam says all of them. Nancy says this one's with silver. Joyce says the gold. Oh, Joyce, ruby is 40 years. Okay. And you should know, right? Lynn, that's strange. Your video froze, but you can still hear me. Everything's okay on this end. Wow, so many of you. Kentucky, Ohio. Where else are people from tonight? All right, would somebody like to receive a card in the mail? One of these. And you're at 55 years, Joyce. And she says, no color for that one. I guess at 55 years, you get to choose your own color. Becky says the vanilla and the soft succulent. Awesome, Georgia. Very good. Okay, if you would like to have your name put into the drawing to receive one of these cards, put the word, let's see, how about typing embossing powder in the comments? All right, embossing powder in the comments. Melinda, you're at 54 years. Congratulations. That is wonderful. So simply in the comments, type embossing powder. And for all of the people who type that in the comments, I will enter your name into a drawing for one of these cards. Here, let me flip this camera back so I can see you and you can see me. So that's all I have for tonight. Are there any questions about embossing? I know I answered them, some of them. I'm not sure if I missed any going through here. But you picked up some tips for heat embossing. You learned how to get the most out of your specialty papers that you can when you're die cutting and layering. And you also got some quick tips on adding lots of texture and dimension and detail to your cards, but still keeping it simple and elegant. All right. I will not see you on Friday for for a demonstration. I may be popping on live just to say hello and show you what I'm up to on Friday or throughout the weekend. But I will not be doing a demonstration Facebook Live because this weekend I have my October Creative Escape weekend. I have, I'm sold out. It's sold out in less than 3 weeks. I have 46 women coming. It's going to be loads of fun. They get a Stampin' Up goodie bag, swag bag, whatever, with some product. And I've got some wonderful cards and other projects planned for them. And I can tell you this now because I did send them the email today with the PDF tutorial. So they know the projects that are coming, but they are using the Whimsy and Wonder suite. So I'm really, really excited. And it's just great fun. I love getting together with these people. I've said this before. I have great customers and great followers. And it's like a reunion when we all get together. There's sharing and laughing and good conversation. And I always learn something new from one of or more of the crafters there. I know this time a couple people are bringing sewing machines, so I'm eager to see what they're making. Just really excited. And best of all, I'm ahead of schedule. I actually started packing the car, and that feels so good. So tomorrow I get a little bit of a breather and I'll take some time to think about what do I want to accomplish on the weekend when I'm there, whether it be a project. I know I'm going to take some training videos that I want to have been wanting to watch. But probably put some cards together or take a couple kits, something like that. I don't get as much done at the weekends when I'm the host because I want to take care of my people and be sure to visit with everybody. And I have my dates, contract sign, everything for my 2022 Creative Escape weekends. So it always feels good to have those kinds of things in place. And I've done all the hard work, and now I just have to show up on Friday with all the stuff. I've got a couple of people helping set up, and then I could just get to enjoy my crafting friends for the weekend. All right, thanks for spending your Wednesday evening with me. I'm so happy that you did. I appreciate you, and I love you, and I look forward to us gathering again. Oh, and I'll be gone Monday because I try to schedule my Creative Escape weekends where there's like a federal holiday Monday, because then lots of people can stay over. I offer the option of the additional day. And I've got quite a few staying this time. So actually, it'll be this time next week that I see you for a demonstration, and we'll work with the soft pastels again. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your week. I hope your weekend will be filled with fun and friendship like mine, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.